Hi folks, Lex here. Sorry my voice isn't really working today, but I wanted to get this video shot, so I'm giving it a go, and I just apologise if my diction is not up to standard. Now, Premier Collection knives from Taylor's Eyewitness are the thing that I collect, and I have quite a few of them. Or I've collected quite a few of them over the years, and I have a new addition to them today. But rather than just showing you another one and just saying that this is a different sort of wood, which is the usual thing, I'm going to say a couple of other things about Sheffield Barlows. Now, this one today is another by Wright. And it's the classic Barlow pattern. Now, I have a number of their Barlows, and I've also got some slim Barlows, often called gentleman's clip, but they are a Barlow nonetheless. They're just long and thin. I'm not going to go through all of those today because there's quite a few, but we will talk about this one, and I'm going to talk briefly about some other things. So this one is in Santos Rosewood, and it's perhaps not the most splendid one that I've got, but it's certainly one that I didn't have. Now, it's the usual high quality Wright made knife with the high levels of polish, beautiful file work on the back, the brass liners. I love these bolsters. These bolsters are pretty much unique, I think, in that they are effectively octagonal, or they give the knife an octagonal shape. You've got the long flat side here, a short slope side on each side, and then of course the spring and the blade produce the other stops. Now, the other thing that I love about these knives, which is it's not unique, but it's rare. Certainly, I've never seen another Sheffield knife of recent manufacture that has it. But it's the closed end. You see that the spring is flat with the bolster, unlike almost any other Barlow where the end of the knife is open. Open, closed. And it also is closed in the half stop, which again you don't get from, certainly I don't think there's any contemporary knife makers in Sheffield that do this. I'm sure they all could if they wanted to, but it's just something that, one of those things that stands out and makes the Taylor's knives particularly attractive to me. Just open up the rest of the way. Obviously, the fit and finish is brilliant. It can be nothing else. Lee makes a good knife. The polish is fantastic, though of course it's covered in my fingerprints. Difficult to do much about that. Anyway, what I just wanted to do was talk about a couple of other Barlows. Before I go on to those other ones, though, I want to just show you these. Now, these are all of my other Taylor's Eyewitness Barlows. They're all Premier Collection except for two, although I certainly took this basic one and I've done quite a lot of rubbing of beeswax into the handle and polishing the shiny bits. They come with satin blades and unpolished bolsters, so I spent an afternoon one day polishing it. I don't unfortunately have any power polishing mop, so I had to do it by hand, and it takes a long time. And when I got to doing it, I realised that the tip of the blade isn't very good. It's got a few striations in it. So in the end, I wonder whether it was really worth all the effort. But, you know, it turned a run-of-the-mill £30 knife into something that I thought was really quite attractive. So that's that one. And this one here is their basic knife in black synthetic cover. And I did a little work on this knife, but it's not to the same standard as the other one. You know, I started polishing it. I polished the bolster up, and I started polishing the blade. But again, I found those kind of wiggles in the blade. Now they would polish out, but there's an awful lot more effort to do that. This one isn't as bad as the wood-handled one, but yeah. So I've started on it, and maybe one day I'll finish it. That's what they start off looking like. Satin finished. I don't think that's had any polish at all. Maybe the bolsters had a bit. But I've a couple of doubles, but Jersey Pete the other day was asking if they did these knives in any other handle materials, and well, the answer is yes. As you can perhaps, I don't know if you can see all of the materials here, but there are two doubles. I've got two in desert ironwood, but they're not really doubles because one is made by Wright, this one, which I picked up because it probably has the best bit of desert ironwood that I've ever seen on a pocket knife. The grain on it is fantastic on both sides. It's one of the few I have that doesn't have the filed back spring. The other desert ironwood one, which does have the file work, and it is also very beautiful, was made by Wright. So although they're both desert ironwood, they're not really doubles. The only real double I have is I have two ram's horn ones. Now this one I've carried quite a bit, and ram's horn does lose its luster a little bit. This one here just had the best looking ram's horn I'd ever seen. Lovely colours in it, and I think this is the one that's not got file work. Yes, it takes a lot to persuade me to buy one that doesn't have file work, but if it doesn't come over in this phrase buttery translucence that I came up with years ago for these things really applies to this one more than any of the others. But yes, do they do it in other woods? Yes indeed. I think there's ebony, there's snakewood, there's oxhorn, ram's horn, dyed poplar, ram's horn again. This one is walnut, oak, I believe, zircote wood, stag. They don't do them in stag. They're just done as a special for the famous Sheffield shop. Palm wood, and there's an odd one. Amboina burl. Now, Amboina burl covers a multitude of sins, but this is a particularly nice one. Desert ironwood. This one is olive wood. This one is poplar again, but this is undyed poplar, natural poplar. Desert ironwood. This one's interesting because it's one of, I think, only about 3 in existence. At the time I got it, it was the one and only, but it's acrylic with gold inlaid, gold inside it. Real gold. I don't know what sort of carat it is, but it just makes for a really unusual knife. And then probably my favourite material for knife covers is always mother of pearl, and this has particularly good mother of pearl. This was actually the second tailor's Barlow that I got. I got it from the Bakewell Cookshop, but back in those days, these knives used to sit on their shelves for months, sometimes years. I have a couple that had sat there for over a year. It doesn't happen so much now. They have to be very plain and ordinary not to fly off the shelves. And this one is buffalo horn. Now, buffalo horn can be quite plain and just black, or it's not black, it's dark brown. It can look like black, like that there, but this piece, the front piece of this one, has this wonderful figuring in it. It's called feathering, and it was just an outstanding piece, so that added to my collection. So these ones here in the box at the moment are all my Premier collection Barlows, and then I've got these other two, so that's 20, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18, 19, 20, so that's 20 Premier collection that I have. I've got, I think, 7 slim Barlows as well, and then I've got these, which aren't quite Premier collection standard, but they're not far off. And considering these knives, I see you pick them up for about 30 quid, and as well, just like the illustrious seniors, they have the closed end. It's maybe not as well finished as the other ones, but it's there, both in the half stop and in the closed position. And so these ones are nowhere near as beautifully finished as the Premier collection ones, but you're paying 4 times the price for a Premier collection one, at least, sometimes more. So you expect to get more for your money, or at least I do. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to do, actually we'll keep this one out because it's the new one. So I'll just take these out of the way. And just bring this one back. Just because it's an example of a tailor's Barlow. Now, there are a number of people making Barlows in Sheffield today, and I have a few of them, and I'm just going to show you just a small handful about some of the variety. Now, first one I'll show you is actually a relatively recent acquisition. This is what's known as the Stannington Barlow. Now, let me just open these up off camera. So, there's the tailors. Now, say this is the Stannington Barlow. Now, this was made by Stephen Cocker. Oh, Stannington is part of Sheffield. Has on it here Stannington Barlow, and it's has Stephen Cocker's etch on the blade. It's based on a very early design of Barlow that's very much associated with the area of Stannington, which is sort of, I believe, where the Barlow has its origins. Now, this is a simple relatively rough knife, or it represents a simple, relatively rough knife. It's actually exceptionally well made. Stephen Cocker, we'll talk about a little bit as we go on, but he doesn't know how to make a rough knife. The question is, are they really good or are they exemplary? That's the only difference. This one, I would say, is of the really good variety, but it's intended to be a representation of a rough working man's knife. It's got the long bolster, which is there to give it strength. This relatively crude saw cut, I think it's wood, but I don't know what sort of wood, is typical of, what used to be done. You wanted a rough finish so that the knife had some grip to it. You weren't worried about how shiny and beautiful it looked. You just wanted to make sure that it was a hard-working knife. So that's probably the, it's not the earliest knife I've got, but it's the earliest pattern that I have. But the other thing I wanted to show you was how much the pattern of Barlows can vary across different manufacturers. So this is another one. It's actually by Stephen Cocker, but it's a pattern made by made under George Wostenholm ISL brand, which is one of the oldest brands still in existence, but it's now owned by Eggington Brothers. But this is a knife they do as a standard knife. They do it as a smart knife, and then they do it as a super smart special edition, which is what this is. That's got some beautiful stabilized dyed wood. It's got lovely polish. It's got the IXL stamp on the blade, the very traditional George Wostenholm ricasso, and it's numbered. This is number 20 of, I don't know how many, but I think they're going to make them this year because it celebrates the 400th anniversary of the Cutlass Company. There's full videos on all of these, so I'm not going to them too much depth. But so this is what Stephen Cocker makes in his day job. This is what Stephen Cocker makes. Is one of the ones that Stephen Cocker makes at home. But because I don't want you labouring under the misapprehension that Stephen makes beautiful knives at work and relatively utilitarian knives at home, this is one of the knives he made at home for me. Again, it's a Barlow. Barlows have to have a strengthened bolster to be a Barlow, but for some this is a strengthened Barlow, and this is a pattern that existed. The teardrop shape is required. This one has a little bit of curve in it, so it's a slightly unusual pattern of Barlow, but nonetheless it is one of the Barlows that Stephen does. It's got at least 3, or at least I've got 3 of his, but I don't want to just show you his. Now this one is by Michael May, who's a relatively new maker on the Sheffield scene. He used to work for Taylor's Eyewitness, and he was trained there by Keith Moorby, and he, at least in part, trained Lee Wright, who made this one. Michael has a number of different patterns of Barlow. Now, I'm not going to go through all of the ones I've got because this video is already going to be immensely long, but he does a similar, well, it's not as short a bolster as this particular Stephen Cocker pattern, but it is a longish bolster for Michael May. It also has the teardrop shape, and the clip point is associated with the Barlow, but as we can see here, Barlows can have a spear point. They can also have a lamb's foot, and I should have got one out, but I didn't. This particular one comes with a satin blade, and it has an upgraded wood, which was, I think, because I was ordering 3 from him, and I'd seen this wood, and I said, I need a knife in that, and he said, well, tell me which of these 3 you'd like done in it, and I picked this one, and it makes a very elegant knife. In a way, I kind of wish the blade was polished, but hey, you can't have everything. Now this has file worked back spring, and you can sort of see that Lee and Michael had similar training, but their style is slightly different. I always think that, oops, knock him over. Lee's style is sort of softer and more flowing, and Michael's is crisper and cleaner. So, you know, one's not better than the other. I wouldn't, you know, just wouldn't say that. But they are different, and I think that's an interesting sort of stylistic thing that you can get from all of these knives. Now the last one I want to show you, now as I say, Wostenholm name's been around since 17 something, or is it 60? Yeah, 17 something. And Taylor's Eyewitness has been around for just coming up in 200 years actually. Michael Bay, of course, is a new maker on the scene, who's, you know, only been around about, I don't know, 20 odd years probably. Stephen Cocker, probably similar. It's great to see these young people, and I don't know how old Lee is, but he has 2 apprentices working for him now. Eggington have apprentices. Michael May has an apprentice. And as I say, this last one, which is from Arthur Wright. Now, so they've been around since 1947, but for a lot of that time, they had a pretty poor reputation for some of the fit and finish and quality of their knives. But must be 3 or 4 years ago now, Michael Harrison and his son Ashley took over the company, and one of the things that they've done, or one of the most important things they've done, is they've pulled the quality control right up there. Quality control can be as good as any. Unfortunately for me, they are believers in the you can't have a strong enough back spring. Consequence of that, I've seen a number of people with broken back springs recently, and you know, from my point of view, I just end up breaking lumps out of my nails every time I try and open one. You know, you can have a knife that's too light, but I just think sometimes it can be a bit too heavy, and this one I can only open by using my teeth. But anyway, again, this is a long bolster for Arthur Wright, but it's perhaps short compared to some of the other traditional Barlow patterns. Again, it has the clip point blade, which is probably the most usual amongst Sheffield blades, but it's not necessarily the most common worldwide. And again, you have the teardrop handle. Again, with this one, you've got a little bit of curve in it, a bit like the Stephen Cocker. Anyway, I think these are all really nice knives, but the point I was trying to make was Barlow isn't just a Barlow. There are lots of different styles of Barlow, and I haven't even looked at the slimline ones here. What tailors do is that they are probably, to my mind, the best quality of the lot. And now, these are good, and some of Stephen's knives are quite stunning, but routinely they turn out, tailors turn out the best made. There are things about the way the handle is shaped. It takes a bit of knowledge and experience and courage, because once you've taken that corner off the edge of the handle, you can't put it back, and you've already made the knife, and this hafting process, or grinding it and polishing it, is the pretty much the last stage. So if you ruin it, then you're back to the drawing board. You've got to start again. So sometimes you end up with relatively hard, like a flat handle, hard edges, and part of that is to do with a lack of confidence. Lee has that confidence. I have to say, these are all great knife makers, and I would recommend any of them if you want to buy a knife. Tailors are probably the best lookers. These limited edition ones are pretty stunning though as well. The standard knives from Wostenholm and Rogers are somewhere between the quality of the run-of-the-mill knives that tailors do and their Premier collection. Arthur Wright makes some of the best value for money knives. They're all in, see, this is stainless steel and this is stainless steel. These are carbon steel. And so they need a little bit more looking after. But these Arthur Wrights are really good value for money. You can get quite a smart carryable knife for really very little money. Michael May's a little bit more expensive, but his knives tend to be more one-offs, or you can choose how you want your knife made. Now, Arthur Wright will do that as well, but their prices then go through the roof, and they're made by Ashley, and they have a different tang stamp, and they're good. They're great, nothing wrong with them, but they're more expensive. These are somewhere between the cost of a run-of-the-mill knife and a Premier knife of either brand. Stephen makes beautiful, beautiful knives. He has the best stag. I have 3 stag knives by him, and they're different, but they're all beautiful. The only problem with Stephen is he is a one-man band working out the shed in his evenings. That's his day job. This is what he does in his evenings. So, he doesn't churn out hundreds of these. They're difficult to get hold of. These are limited edition. I think they'll probably make as many of them as they can sell this year, but they'll only be made this year, 2024. These were a run that Stephen did for an exhibition that a couple of years ago, and whether there's more of those ever, I don't know. But these are all. I have quite a few of these Tailor's Eyewitness knives, but I don't know how many they make in a year. It's not huge numbers. It's not like GC or anybody like that. Much, much more exclusive. And if you get some of the patterns, like the Stockman, Peach Pruner, some of the pen knives, they are, really, really small numbers. And but they don't. There is no bubble. There's no trading bubble in these things, which is probably why I have so many of them. Because if you buy them, I bought a lot of them new. But if you buy them on the second-hand market, they can be really quite well priced. Whereas like GECs, they just push the price up. A GEC is effectively a factory-made knife with some hand finishing. These are all handmade knives, made from beginning to end by an artisan. They're a different thing altogether. Anyway, I've witted on far too long, and if you're still at this stage, or you're still watching at this stage, it's got to get a thumbs up, or perhaps you might be interested in some of the other things I have to say, in which case subscribe and ring the bell if you're not already subscribed, and leave a comment. Even if the comment is, "This is way too long, why don't you shut up?" It's still good for the channel. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye.